Hello, hello, Scott Posley with Imperfection Wellness, and today we're talking about control. All things that we control, or what do we control, if anything? Being a former people pleaser, a control freak, this is some tough news for me, and that is this idea of control. That if I can control every aspect of my world around me, things will be okay. I'm here to tell you that's not true, and that's a hard truth. So let's sit with that for just a second. Take that big belly deep breath. Sit in that discomfort. For so many years, my coping mechanism was control. If I can control for all variables of all things around me, or most things around me, then things will be okay. And that's not true. Part of it is a nervous system response. Part of it is a trauma response of not knowing where I fit in, and maybe if I keep people happy and maybe if everything's perfect, I'll have value and worth. But then it became a coping mechanism that if I can control everything, things will be okay. And when we realize how little we control, and when we sit in that discomfort, we start sitting in acceptance of what is, what was, what will be, meaning we come back to the present. We accept the past for what it was, not ruminating about regrets. And we accept what the future will be. And that's not passive. We are still engaged in life. We're still engaged in our choices, but we realize no matter how many choices we make, there are other variables outside of our control. That's uncomfortable for me. Still to this day, all these years later. See that big sigh? That's energy leaving me. That's stress energy because I want to control things. Because if I can control, if I can intervene, if I can help you, if I can help this person, that person, at work, at home, friends, family, it doesn't matter. If I can just step in, I know what's best, because if I can control it, then the outcome's going to be okay. There's no guarantee in life. We are born to live, and then our lives will eventually end and we die, and that's one of the greatest fears. And I say that as someone who is a cancer survivor. I had testicular cancer at 18, spread through my body, got treatments, and I'm better. I have 2 parents with Alzheimer's. Beautiful, beautiful parents. And I look back to the past with fond memories, not regrets. I don't know what the future holds, so I come back to present moment because I know their days are numbered. And if I get stuck on that, then I miss what's going on today, and that's why I recenter and come back to present moment. I wish I could control their diagnoses. I wish I could control what happens in their house so that they don't trip and fall like they recently did. I wish the state of affairs in the world were better. I hate that red and blue are fighting and trying to divide what we are instead of coming together, realizing there's so much more that unites us. And I feel like things are out of control. But throughout history, things have been out of control. And I read somewhere, what can I do? I can look to the dumpster fire and know that it's there, and then I come back to me. And I start with myself, because that's all I have. I can't control all the variables around me. And sitting in that discomfort, mindful breathing, meditation, things I teach, things I advocate, the resources I have available on imperfectionwellness.com. It is because we feel at a loss, we feel fear, and our psyche, our ruminating patterns, our ego, our neural pathways, that patterned behavior highway, our unresolved emotional experiences. We may not call that trauma, but that's what trauma is. And trauma to one person is not trauma to someone else. And so what's going on when I'm spiraling out of control? I sit and I center myself and I come back to present moment. I use the 10 universal truths of Posley's paradigm to come back to present moment as true self, realizing I'm always going to have thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Nothing wrong with that. It's how do I identify with them? And do I let them take me on a chaotic roller coaster ride where I feel so out of control that I start using numbing behaviors? Sex, drugs, alcohol, shopping, exercise, eating, whatever it may be. Or restrictive exercises, not eating, not shopping, shutting down. We miss out on life. And believe me, I come from experience. There's no critique on any of these behaviors. We just start bringing our awareness that when it feels out of control, we don't know what to do. And sometimes the ultimate loss of control, that ultimate overwhelm, leading to self-harm and or ending one's life. I've contemplated it. I've stood on the brink and looked over the edge. This is real. And I think inadvertently, we sleepwalk through life, going from A to B to C to D without even thinking. Sometimes it's just because that's how things are, but other times it becomes a coping mechanism. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to stop. We don't know how to pause. And it's in these moments that we sit and realize we have control over very little. I have control over me. I have control over how I respond. And because of patterned behavior, which I'm pulling back layer by layer, I realize a lot of the why. Why was I people-pleasing? Because I didn't feel self-worth. Why was I trying to fix? Because if I could fix everything around me, maybe people would like me, or maybe things would be okay. And that realization is step one, that awareness. Awareness being concept one of Posley's paradigm. Again, visit imperfectionwellness.com for some of these resources. They're free downloads, freely available and accessible, because I want a wellness revolution, knowing that there is more that unites us than divides us. Let's come to the table and talk. We're not going to get anywhere from yelling at each other. So when we come to the table and talk and start realizing the why behind it, the fear of letting go of control is such a real fear. And if I can control that, then it'll be okay. It creates an endless loop. And so what do? Mindful breathing. I have other videos which I would encourage you to watch, but one of them, the ever silly looking left nostril breathing. Right thumb over right nostril, and take some slow, deep breaths in and out. Activate your parasympathetic nervous system, your calming, healing, rest and digest nervous system. We live in our chaotic, frenetic, sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight. We don't know that we live there because we're so used to it. And these stress hormones and chemicals coursing through our body, it's the reason we have high blood pressure, cardiac disease, sleep disturbances, eating disturbances, GI gut disturbances. When we engage the parasympathetic nervous system, we're actually able to rest, to digest, to heal, to recover. And one of the quickest ways to do that is left nostril breathing. Let's get over looking silly. I do left nostril breathing whenever I think about it, wherever I am. In a car, on a subway, walking down the street, at work. But let's say you don't want to do that, then maybe do some box breathing. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4. Hold that for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. And hold that for a count of 4. Just doing one round pulls you out of autopilot into intention, which brings you back to present moment. You do a couple left nostril breathing, couple box breathing sessions. I have a couple guided meditations on my website. Do a guided meditation right when you wake up in the morning. The shortest one I have, I think, is 5 minutes. It's hard to go shorter than that. It's a quick body scan. It's a quick breathing guided meditation. Try something. Because then when we start grounding ourselves, we can start sitting in the discomfort of acceptance that I don't have control over much. I can lean into that. I can breathe through that discomfort and let it go. And start realizing I have control over how I choose to respond. That's the most beautiful thing there is. And believe me, I react a lot. Ask my friends or family. He does wellness? He's a meditation teacher? Oh, I don't know. Because it's hard. We are humans. We are fallible. We will stumble and fall, but the beauty is we have an opportunity to get back up. And so once we start realizing the fallacy of control, we can bend a little more. We're like a tree in the storm. We have those roots firmly planted in the ground. On my logo, I have a tree for a reason. Because we need a foundation, those roots to hold us when the world is a chaotic storm and we're blowing in the wind. And even if all the leaves disappear and branches fall, we have an opportunity to bounce back, to come back, because our roots are so firmly planted. And there are times where my meditation practice isn't as strong, but I'm consistent. There are times I forget breathing exercises, but I come back to them. There are times I forget that I'm having an activation from an old emotional response that I haven't healed, and it's playing out again in this situation. And I'm going to be doing videos on those trauma responses, on those unresolved emotional experiences, because when they're stored in you, they're going to come out in different ways. And for me, alcohol was my numbing agent of choice. It would make things go away nicely. And as part of my meditation teacher training, we had to choose to not drink, not use drugs. They even went so far as to say no caffeine. I bent to that rule a little. But in choosing to stop drinking, that alertness, that awakened feeling, seeing things as they are, seeing things more clearly, I also realized some of my social situations with friends and family and others, now that they're seen through a different lens, I resonate differently with different people, and they resonate differently with me. And I want to go back to that control. I want to go back to, but I want things the way that they were. That's the past. That's so uncomfortable to not have that. But what about tomorrow? I don't know. And my brain, the human brain, is always reliving these scenarios. I talk a lot about ego, whether it's ego, your psyche, whether it's whatever it may be, your neural pathways, there's so much going on in the human brain that we don't understand. But we can start realizing I might not be able to control certain things, but I can control how I interact with it. And I shouldn't even say I control how I interact with it. I can choose to interact with it differently. And in choosing to interact with it differently, it doesn't mean I like it. But I'm able to come back to present moment and sit with the discomfort and say, what do I have right now? Is there an affirmation I need? Is there a gratitude exercise? So we start appreciating the fallacy of what is control. And that's a hard one for me. I'm sure it won't be the last video I make on it, because it's something that plagues me that I have to remind myself of. And one of the things we can control is how we interact. And one of the interactions is sitting in acceptance, breathing through discomfort, and letting go. I hope this resonates with you. Please like and follow for more. Please leave a comment how this resonates with you. We're all on this journey together. this challenging human experience. But there are ways to come back to present moment, and I'm glad to be here sharing them with you. So as always, wishing you the best on your wellness journey.